just wanted to make sure I was engaged. Well,
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
I have amazing news. For the first time in 15 months, we went to Zydeco last night because Sherry Held it said Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are the nights not to that they need more business. And they, as of the day before, which I did not know, just started carrying my family's beef. And
Oh,
so it's
great.
Pendleton beef on the steak. Anyway, I was like, so of course I'm immediately texting my sister. And yes, she said yes. Anyhow, so then my sister wanted to know what the steak tastes like. It's like I never, yeah, I always eat a steak at home, so I have
Did
to
you
go
have
back.
Brussels sprouts?
No, they didn't have any on the menu. They had beets, Brussels sprouts. Yeah. Anyway, but no, it was so, yeah, my family's,
That's super fun. I
you know,
like that.
oh, it was really when I saw that Pendleton beef steak, and I was like, wow.
Got to
So
get the shrimp and grits.
yeah, well, of course I had the shrimp, right?
Okay. All right. Good.
That's my fave. That's their fave. So everyone will have to rush there next week.
So yeah, I'm on my mobile phone today, as you can see, and hopefully the connectivity's good. I'm away from home,
Yep, we can hear
camping.
you just
Yeah,
great.
good. And I may turn the video off just as the bandwidth. I'm at Toyota. Mhm. Uh, okay, good morning, everyone. This is Deschutes County Legislative Update Meeting. This is Friday, May 23rd, 2025, 8 o'clock in the morning. Um, legislative update, a lot of big things happening in Salem. I know there's kind of the wheeling and dealing, negotiating. Special thanks to Doug Riggs for keeping us up to date. It was, be here at this time. Oops, stand by. They changed it, or it went to rules or ways and means. So things are happening fast right now. We did sign a letter with about 15 priority items for Deschutes County proper, just as a refresher for any legislator that can see it to say, oh yeah, this is Deschutes County's priority. So that was real good to get that out the door. Um, so those are thoughts from myself. Commissioner Adair, any other thoughts to start the day?
House Bill 3135, the Juniper Bill for the 5.2 million. I got all 7 counties' name on the letter. So really excited about getting, even Wheeler County was getting 455,000, and the judge was thrilled that they're part of it, and they do have a soil and water conservation district. So it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the letter from the Terrebonne asked for 2.5 million. It ended up that we have almost 3.2 million in that project, and that's really what they want to see. So today, Brenda's going to send that email to everyone in Ways and Means so they see exactly how much money the feds and the county have invested to date, and so that we can get that final funding from them because Smith Rock is the seventh wonder of Oregon. And the
Great
septic
job.
system needs it. So anyway, no, I want to thank us, Senator Girard's chief of staff, because she told me, she goes, you let me know everything that's in that project, and that will really help. So that's been done, or
Great.
it will be done today.
Commissioner Chang, good morning.
Morning. Yeah, I'm calling in from the road, and I think one of the more interesting things I've been tracking this week is that the governor realizing that the wildfire funding situation has become very urgent is now supporting the concept to use a portion of the kicker um, to fund a wildfire trust fund that over the long term would generate interest that we could use to pay for um, wildfire prevention and also wildfire fighting costs from year to year.
Okay. So with that, as I say, I'm
Can
on
I,
a mobile device also. Go ahead.
Mr. Devone, actually, I was on the Eastern Oregon call at 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and it was brought up that we could actually use the interest from the rainy day fund for that. I believe what I've seen online is that people really don't want that kicker touch because once it's touched, yes. it will always be touched. And I do believe they need a 2/3 majority. So I'm thinking that's going to be a little more difficult.
Yeah, I'm not
What I would
saying I'm not saying that it's going to pass. I am saying that again, the governor's recognizing that the legislature has not been able to come up with meaningful revenue sources. Using interest from the rainy day fund is basically still using the general fund to pay for our wildfire costs, which means that we have that much less to work with from our general fund for all of our other needs: public safety, behavioral health, and a range of other things. So schools. So, as long as we are still talking about taking money from the general fund to pay for wildfire, we're not really, in my opinion, making any progress. So, yeah, just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, good discussion. Doug Riggs, if you're out there, thank you very much for what you're doing. The heat of the moment these days.
Yeah, that's definitely the case, Commissioner. So good morning, Doug Riggs here on behalf of all of you. Happy to be here. I think Emma is keeping an eye on Ways and Means subcommittees this morning, so he may or may not be joining us as well. Couple big things occurred this week. Number one was that this was the second chamber deadline, so bills that had crossed over from one side to the other had to be out of committee. So most committees as of yesterday afternoon are now closed down and will remain closed down except for informational purposes until the end of the session. So the exceptions are, of course, the Ways and Means Committee, which stays open until the very last moment. Revenue and Finance stay open. Rules stays open, and a new joint committee on transportation expenditures, which has been created, stays open. But all the other committees basically, have completed their actual work. They may hold informational hearings. The second big issue occurred last week, and that was the revenue forecast. The revenue forecast was down from the March forecast, but still equaled the higher forecast reflected in the December revenue forecast. So total, the budget writers have approximately $2 billion more than they had in this current biennium to spend. But of course, there's inflation. There are lots of expensive programs and new demands. And, wildfire is certainly one of them. So that's a big issue that'll be discussed in the next few weeks. On the transportation front, the big news yesterday was that the co-chairs of the Joint Committee on Transportation indicated that they also want to address the cap and trade issue within the context of transportation. That came as a surprise to many. The details of exactly how that would be structured or exactly what that means were not unveiled. It was just kind of a general statement. But we'll have to wait and see how that plays into the entire situation.
Question. Yeah, cap and trade is a revenue source for transportation. That's a new, unique idea?
Correct. Yeah, the idea, I think, would be to sell pollution credits of some sort from companies that had generated a decrease in emissions and be able to use that funding for transportation programs. But like I said, the details are nowhere near being revealed at this point in time. The other big thing that was supposed to come out this week was the results of the audit that the legislature had commissioned at the beginning of the session, the ODOT audit, and that is not yet out. So I expect in the next few days that might be coming out. So stay tuned, keep an eye on the press. Another big issue for us has been both our ADU bill, Senate Bill 75, and also Senate Bill 83, which is the wildfire maps bill. As you remember, Senate Bill 85 was moved on to the Ways and Means Committee, so that's through the process to a certain extent. But both 75 and 83 were not passed by the Climate Committee. Instead, they were forwarded on the Rules Committee. They're kind of in a holding pattern. Reports are that they're being held by the Speaker for potential negotiating leverage in other areas, potentially to negotiate a deal on the transportation package to try to encourage some folks to vote for the transportation package. If you allow a Senate Bill 83 wildfire map repeal to go forward, that was a rumor in the building yesterday. Of course, there's nothing official on that, but that does mean that both 75 and 83 are kind of caught in that end of session discussion. Just one more thing that I'll mention before opening up for questions or specific bills, and that's House Bill 3069, which we discussed at length 2 weeks ago. We had our staff work and the commission sent some input.
Question, Doug, pardon me. I'm looking back at Senate Bill 75. So I'm just looking at the words again. Remove requirement related to wildfire hazards and for the purpose of developing accessory dwelling units. So is the fallback position that defensible space requirements are at their highest level for ADUs in the rural if nothing happens here relative to the. My point is in Deschutes County, it's a natural state, you know, to be defensible space. Whatever the code section is, I'm forgetting right now, but you know, we almost always build to that level already. So maybe this isn't such a collision course for us.
Well, I think the concern might be that if we have an underlying statute that requires us to comply with something like a wildfire map that does not exist, that presents a legal complication moving forward. And so that's really what Senate Bill 75 had become, was a technical fix bill to remove a reference to something that if Senate Bill 83 passes and is signed into law will no longer exist. So
I guess I was thinking the R327 standards, the highest you know, requirement for building for fire hardening. My point is that's okay. You know, in the rural Deschutes County, that's okay. So I don't know, maybe it'll be interesting where that goes.
Yeah, I think you're right that those issues are probably okay. It's the question of whether or not a county could comply with the requirement that we comply with state wildfire maps if the wildfire maps no longer exist.
Like it could be a hard stop because of that scenario.
Could be if someone challenged it, correct.
Yep. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So House Bill 3069 was a bill, as you recall, that meant to streamline the CJC processes on a variety of grants, as you recall, and I'll let staff go into details, but we have had review committees for every one of the grants in under CJC. This bill streamlines that to one committee, adds some membership to that one committee, and make some other changes as far as requirements on counties, timing, etc. An amendment came out this week, the -6 amendment, that attempted to address some of the concerns that have been expressed by the counties and others, including slipping the deadline for those changes until 2026 and not immediately, and making a few other changes as far as administrative costs, etc. So it seems to me that has addressed many of the concerns that I think a lot of the counties have, and that bill will move on to Ways and Means where it needs to be funded. And that leads me to my last point, which is really between now and the end of the session, which is approximately 4 weeks away. The entire focus of the legislature is going to be trying to decide how they balance the needs for programs like the programs in 3069 and the programs in wildfire fighting and the programs for Core 3, et cetera. How do you balance those needs with the other mandatory spending requirements and the limitations on available revenue? And that'll be an issue that the Ways and Means co-chairs and leadership, including, you know, we have 2 subcommittee co-chairs in our delegation. Senator Broadman and Rep. Levy are both subcommittee co-chairs on the Ways and Means Committee. So they'll be grappling with that. And my guess is a lot of that will be behind closed doors, as is typical. That's pretty standard operating practice. And we'll know when we know, as they say in the building. So I'll stop there and happy to take any questions, or we can move on to any bills that Jen wants to go over.
So one question is so transportation package is #1 high priority on top of balancing the budget. I mean, there's 2 prongs to that whole big picture, isn't there?
Yeah, it's surprising to me that it's taken so long to unveil the package, and it's also surprising to me that it's taken so long to unveil the so-called accountability measures for ODOT, to
Yeah.
kind of restore faith in the ability to grant funding to ODOT and have assurance that it'll be spent effectively. And I would have expected that, that accountability package would have made the most sense to be rolled out a few weeks ago to allow people to look into it, amend it, change it, update it, add their thoughts and ideas, and then a funding package might be um, unveiled. But neither has taken place so far.
Yeah. So on a different topic there, core 3 economic impact statement. Yeah, I'll get right back to you, Commissioner Chang. Economic impacts, and maybe I'll ask this afterwards. Go ahead, Commissioner Chang.
Yeah, just while we're still talking about the transportation package, it's everything that Doug just said is accurate. The concern about stretching the general fund to cover all of these things is accurate, but we also should recognize that the transportation is not supposed to be funded out of the general fund. So it's kind of like we're watching two independent sets of moving parts. The resolution of many of those other spending issues can proceed without the transportation package. And likewise, the transportation package could be all figured out without all of that other stuff being sorted out. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see good progress on both fronts, but they can essentially move independently from each other. And that's been my hope, with the transportation package, that they would get it sorted out early. But everything that Doug said is accurate.
And I understand, they are independent, but they're just two big ones. That's what I was referring to. Two big topics that's going to take the whole room for both sides of the Capitol.
Yeah.
So as I say, economic impact statement for core 3. This is kind of me touching base with Doug specifically about this project. We're probably going to do a little update to that. So the question was, should we write a letter saying the impact statement in draft form shows this, or try to get it more landed before we put a letter out? Timing wise is the question.
Yeah, Commissioner, I think now is kind of crunch time, and I mentioned to Shelby with COIC yesterday that I thought that it's valuable to, be accurate about what we're saying. I think the problem with the impact statement is that it kind of addresses phase 1 and phase 2 collectively, but we can certainly say that this impact statement confirms that core 3 will have a positive economic impact on Central Oregon, generate more new and more tax revenues for the state of Oregon, in addition to all the other benefits as far as seismic ability, wildfire response and training, public safety training, et cetera. So I think that information is very helpful to get into the hands of the key Ways and Means decision makers, the key staff at Ways and Means. So I think it's worth getting that information out early.
So so next Thursday maybe would be the optimal day to try to get it out there. So we'll work on that next week. Thank you.
I was actually told to get letters in by today. When I was in the Capitol on Monday, they said, get them in this week and then don't stop. Remember when we got the 15 million for the courthouse? I had to go back like at the very end because we weren't getting a dime. So, something can be done today. I think that's better.
So it's a University of Oregon impact analysis contract that's giving us a work product, and we just want to go back and kind of refine it a little bit more. So it's just not quite ready. So that's why we're in this catch-22. We want to reference a work product.
Yeah, and I just, so Commissioner Adair, so I'm leaving here in a few minutes to head to Salem for Ways and Means, and I am going to swing by and tell the Ways and Means LFO staffer that a report has been completed. It says kind of the following things, and that an official letter will be coming. So they'll have some advance notice on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Jen.
Okay. Yep.
Good morning. We have one new bill up for discussion. It's HB 3835 under community justice. The bill summary as it modifies provisions regarding the use of restraint and involuntary seclusion on certain young people. Additionally, to this bill, there is a draft letter that was attached to the email yesterday with the bill tracker report that DV wrote. So I'm going to turn it over to DV to talk further on this bill and the letter.
Good morning, DV.
I see her on, but she's on mute. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, she was, there
Hey,
you go.
I'm here, sorry. I was on a call real quick.
So yeah, 3835 letter that you had signed.
Yes, I think that if the commission is willing still, I'd love for you to approve me to send that letter
Yeah.
from my department. I don't, because we stuck it into our general priorities, I think that that's also fine. If you also didn't want to send it at all. Does that make sense? It's not a huge priority for us. We had a request from Senator Broadman to kind of just add our name to it, especially. So that's why that draft letter is there.
I was able to review the letter real quick, but can you give us the concept again?
Yes, so essentially, this is actually a relatively large bill. Our point of interest and entry into this is that we want abuse allegations related to children who are in any kind of state, county, residential setting to be more streamlined. And in Deschutes County, specifically for our detention center, we want law enforcement investigation, not DHS investigation. And this bill would provide that and ensure that that happens. So that's
Great.
our primary point of interest. It is a big bill. It's got a lot of other stuff in it that I can't speak to with a lot of expertise. But I see Steve nodding his head, so I don't know if you had any weigh in on that, Steve.
I think that proposal is the only proposal that could possibly make sense. Having DHS do those investigations would make zero sense. And I fully support that proposal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I saw that letter. I'm supportive of getting it out there. Commissioner Dare, Commissioner Chang.
Yes, of course.
Good.
Thank you, DV. Sounds like, thank you for what you do.
So thank you. Appreciate the support.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great,
So
that
that
is all I had for bills for review. I saw briefly at the beginning of the meeting that Tim Brownell had his hand up. I'm not sure if that was an accidental hand raise or not, but thought I'd give him a moment to see if he had something further to discuss or if any other department had an issue they wanted to check in on.
Yep. Maybe it was just an audio check.
It looks like Chris Doty has his hand up.
Chris.
Yeah, good morning. Lower my head. I missed the conversation last week. Unfortunately, I was out of the office and Cody was in my place and I was trying to get promoted to be able to speak, wasn't able to in the context. I understand transportation was discussed a little bit. I just want to leave the board with some thoughts as it pertains to how we want to perhaps steer some advocacy towards this, with our delegation. I would really encourage, our delegation to recognize the leverage opportunity that exists here for things like the accountability components, for things like prohibiting project labor agreements attached to anything ODOT does. Complaining about rate increases, things like that hurts everybody. Our transportation system is a utility, and utilities have to have that annual evaluation of operations and maintenance, and we have to make rate adjustments within our utility systems, and able to keep them on and running. And I'm thankful for that. We'd be having this meeting by candlelight if the power company, wasn't serious about their duty to maintain and operate their system. We've adjusted our utility rates and transportation 3 times in the last 32 years. And so it's no wonder that we have parts of it that are crumbling, structurally deficient. The opportunity here is to to leverage change, accountability, oversight within transportation, within ODOT as an agency. And I would hate for that opportunity to go by the wayside, you know, and just simply advocating for this not to be passed because, you know, the gas tax is having to go up. So my 2 cents.
No, pardon me.
Sorry.
What I remember last time gas tax package was discussed and they negotiated the 2 cents and 2 cents, and it gets very, very political, very
Yeah,
tense
the
or
other thing to
whatever.
remember too is that, you know, it's not just gas tax, it's cost of vehicle ownership. And, you know, the fact that we don't have a sales tax in this state, anything that funds towards transportation, you know, really makes it an apples and oranges comparison when we're talking about gas tax that's paid in other states.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, you missed my comments last week. My son who moved here from California pays way more. He has less income because he now pays more in Oregon taxes than he did in California. And there's a tax all over the place in Oregon. I think we're number 4 in the nation. Gas is now down to what, $60 a barrel. And yet Oregon, California, we're paying the most for our gas. So I think they need to actually efficiently look at how they're spending the money, because we're definitely a high tax state.
Yeah, that's interesting that fuel is at like $4 a gallon right now, when you hear the national news saying it's at 3.20 average. Maybe there's politics in there. But yeah, vehicle ownership, total cost, that's very valuable too, to think about that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else this morning?
If I could just tack on to what Chris was
Please.
saying. The other thing to remember about House Bill 2017, you know, we were just recounting the history of the tax increases, but the really important thing to remember about House Bill 2017 is it promised people a bunch of new goodies, a bunch of new capital construction, and it really did an inadequate job of funding basic operations and maintenance. And so we have suffered from that over the last few years. And if we stick with the same funding formula from House Bill 2017, we will suffer from that way, way more in the coming years. Like if we are not able to get a transportation package passed, it will be a disaster for basic operations and maintenance, things like snow plowing, things like potholes, things like removing dead animals from the side of the road after collisions. So, you know, I just want to emphasize to people that, you know, if you're unhappy about, you know, fee or tax increases on top of what was done in House Bill 2017, House Bill 2017 didn't do the job for operations and maintenance, and we're trying to fix that now.
Oh, and remember the beginning of my thoughts was, I would have rather seen the tough discussion about just dropping a whole nickel or a dime on, as I say, I'm referring to the gas tax again, but total cost of ownership. You know, define what we want to see and then backtrack to the hard choice that needs to be made instead of taking these little increments. So that's where I was going with my comment earlier. But we're not legislators at this point. We are advocates for Deschutes County citizens. So.
No, the fact that they did 3% for maintenance on the House Bill 2017, 3%. Somebody should have been awake then, realizing that that was incredibly inappropriate. And of course, now we've got the problems. But the fact that they had 1.1 billion on their financials, which was almost 19% of their entire financials for that year, that's never going to be income. I really believe that, you know, somebody's got to be really revamping how ODOT is being run. That was way too big of a accounting error.
Yeah, actually that 1.1 billion, they were forecasting too soon. It wasn't that it's not coming. It's just that they were forecasting that it was coming in a year when, you know, when the money hadn't arrived yet. It will arrive in subsequent years.
No, Omar,
and
Commissioner
now
Chang,
that system.
Commissioner Chang, Omar said, I asked him at our ODOT meeting that I chair, I said, when are they going to recognize that 1.1 billion? And he said, never. That, if you can look on the tape, that's what he said. at our Connect or our COAC meeting the other day. He said it was never coming.
Well, if you want to read the actual reports on this, Omar may have misunderstood what you were talking about, but if we're talking about the 1.1 billion of forecasted federal funds, the problem was that they were forecasting it too soon, basically.
Well, as I say, legislature is going to be managing this one for the next few weeks, and we'll see what comes out of the session. Doug, help us stay up to speed on this, which you're doing a great job of it right now. And to say this is the moment where they need to make the big policy and financial choices. Is there anything else for this meeting? Seeing none, everybody have a great day. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend as we slide into that also.
And thank you all for being here. It's really appreciated. The
Yeah.
support. Thank you.
Okay.